Sorry, folks, America's closed. The moose out front should have told you. President Donald Trump overnight in a Truth Social post basically said we are pausing all immigration from third world countries so we can re-examine what's happening here in the United States.
We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them.
That was President Donald Trump. That was a speech he gave to the American people right after the brutal shooting of those National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. by an Afghan national who was confirmed to have been brought into the United States after the botched withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan by President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., which resulted in the Abbey Gate fiasco, where 13 American men and women were killed. Thousands of others in Afghanistan were either killed by the Taliban or imprisoned. It was just awful. And President Donald Trump and the Department of Homeland Security have confirmed that that's how this guy, this shooter, this brutal animal who came into the United States and has now assaulted and killed National Guard men and women, that's how he came in. Donald Trump is sick of it.
As we are filled with anguish and grief for those who were shot, we're also filled with righteous anger and ferocious resolve. As President of the United States, I am determined to ensure that the animal who perpetrated this atrocity pays the steepest possible price. I can report tonight that based on the best available information, the Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden, a disastrous president, the worst in the history of our country. This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation. The last administration let in 20 million unknown and unvetted foreigners from all over the world, from places that you don't want to even know about. No country can tolerate such a risk to our very survival.
Yeah, and President Donald Trump posted that photo. I remember this photo vividly. It was a photo of a cargo plane. I believe it's an American military cargo plane, and it was jam-packed, filled to the gills with these Afghan nationals and these citizens who were fleeing the Taliban. And I believe that the military just loaded them up as many as they could. They got in there with their possessions. They were brought into the United States of America. They were brought to safety. But the problem is they weren't vetted, they weren't checked, they weren't questioned, they didn't have passports, nobody knew their background, nobody knew who they were, and then they were released into the country under Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Now we're starting to realize that maybe some of these people, they shouldn't be here. Maybe they don't love America the way we do. Maybe they're not protecting this country the way we would expect a guest and an invited, I guess you would say visitor to the United States to behave. They're taking advantage of, and they're committing crimes, and they're killing Americans, some of them. And that is not something President Donald Trump wants to see. I don't think anybody does. And that's why overnight he posted a very lengthy Truth Social about 7 hours ago. And it was a Thanksgiving message that also dramatically expanded his foreign policy and his immigration efforts. He wrote a very happy Thanksgiving salutation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disruptive, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid when it comes to immigration. The official United States foreign population stands at 53 million people, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. They and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic American citizens who, because of their beautiful hearts, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. They put up with what has happened to our country, but it's eating them alive to do so. A migrant earning $30,000 with a green card will get roughly $50,000 in yearly benefits for their family. The real migrant population is much higher. The refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II. As an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. The seriously retarded, President Donald Trump's words, not mine, governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both. While the worst congresswoman in the USA, in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab and who probably came into the USA illegally in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she is treated with her place of origin, when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. That's part one. This is part two. This is where he gets into his new plan. Even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country. End all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. That was President Donald Trump's message to all of those foreign nationals on Thanksgiving. He's saying, look, we're not going to put up with it anymore. First of all, we're stopping migration from any third world country. So if you're coming in from the Middle East, if you're coming in from, some parts of course, South America and Latin America and Somalia, Africa, all these nations where there are people who could be doing irreparable harm to American citizens, he's done. We're shutting it down until we can reevaluate, reassess, and reset our immigration system. The second thing that he's going to do is he's going to examine all of the people who are already here and see if they should be here. And if not, he's going to reverse migrate them, remove their naturalization or denaturalize them, and send them back home from whence they came. Now, imagine all of this is going to end up in courts probably, if not today, because it's Black Friday, first thing Monday morning. There'll be federal courts and there'll be lawsuits filed everywhere. Every single country and every single immigrant-loving Democrat is going to have a lawyer ready to go so that they can do whatever it is they're going to do. But President Donald Trump is saying there must be drastic action taken to make sure that the people we're bringing into our country aren't just planeloads of illegal immigrants or Afghans who are fleeing the Taliban and may be setting up for disaster here in the United States, but actually good people who will benefit our country. Congressman Randy Fine from Florida was on Newsmax. He mentioned something very similar and said, look, the whole idea of vetting is kind of flawed.
Here's the bigger issue. How do you know what is in someone's mind and what is in someone's heart? I think to some degree, the whole notion of vetting is a flawed theory. You can't know what these people believe. They're not going to say, hey, I hate America and I want to walk up to two people and shoot them in the head. I think what we need to do is from countries and philosophies that do not share our values, it is time to send them all home.
That is something that President Donald Trump 100% wholeheartedly has agreed with, and that seems to be the new policy moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see what happens exactly with our immigration. It's going to be interesting to see how much Donald Trump can stop it. But after the really dramatic and horrible shooting in Washington, D.C., it's definitely something that President Donald Trump has put at the forefront. Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff in charge of immigration and other policies, said Donald Trump's remarks were moving. Not only that, Donald Trump installing 500 new National Guard troops in D.C. proves he's not shying away from, nor is he going to be scared by any and all of these criminals.
The president's remarks, I think, were among the most moving that I've ever heard. It was perfect for this incredibly tragic occasion, this heartbreaking, anguishing tragedy right before Thanksgiving. I think she spoke movingly and beautifully to what we've lost, but also demonstrated the tremendous resolve and determination to not only continue the mission these soldiers died for, but to expand the mission, declaring that far from being deterred, the commander-in-chief, our president, is sending 500 more troops to the city to show that no terrorism will sway us. And also having a conversation tonight with America, the conversation that we have to have with President Trump saying that Joe Biden, the Biden administration, the Democrats have inflicted on this nation the worst national security threat in our history. We've never faced a threat like this. 20 million people brought into our country from the most failed societies on earth. Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, Iraq, brought here. No vetting, no conditions, no rules. Brought here on visas, brought here as refugees, brought here as asylees, brought here as illegals. Brought here in every way imaginable, by plane, train, bus, automobile, by land, by sea. For 4 straight years, they deluged this country. And now more blood is being spilled as a result. What you heard tonight from President Trump, the breaking news here tonight, is saying that his government is going to accelerate efforts to review every person added to this country over the last 20 years, or the last 4 years, all 20 million. Now, obviously, if you're illegal, you're out automatically. But everybody else who is brought here, refugee, asylum status, whatever status, as he said, if you're not someone who loves this country, if you're not any benefit to this country, then we're going to send you out of this country. Because it's enough already. No one else has to die. No one else has to be murdered. No one else has to be shot. No more empty seats are needed at the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table because of what Democrats have done to this country. So tonight we heard from a commander-in-chief a historic announcement, a brave announcement, exactly what America needed to hear.